All right. Welcome back to pair streaming here with Mike Rizzi. Good morning, Mike.
Morning, Ted. How you doing?
I think we're both a little tired.
Yeah,
So so it will be interesting, to say the
and
least.
and I haven't done anything in this regard for like a couple of weeks, so I'm have to get my head back in the game.
Yep. Yeah, I certainly haven't looked at this code either. I've been doing
Yeah,
my own streaming, but yeah, I'll have to get our heads back in the game.
I've been having fun with taxes.
Oh joy.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I appreciate your definition of fun, so. So for those of you who haven't either have completely forgotten what we were working on or haven't seen our stuff before, um, Mike, do you want to give a little intro about what this app is all about?
Sure. I volunteer at a radio station, and I've been collecting uh, songs of various themes. Like Halloween, Christmas, New Year's. It's raining out. Um, all kinds of things, and they're collected on post-it notes, um, handwritten notes, text files, and lately spreadsheets. Woohoo, getting
Right,
modern.
right.
Um,
It's
and the
always it's
idea
always
was,
spreadsheets.
yeah, it's always spreadsheets. Um, and so I thought it would be fun to share these lists with folks, in particular with folks at my radio station, but also with the world. Why not? And I couldn't find much in the way of interesting song theme websites. They're mostly the top 10 songs about a particular theme, and it's usually laden with ads, the website, and it's usually very mainstreamy stuff, whereas community radio stations tend to be a little bit outside the norm. So I thought it'd be fun to build a website to share it, but hey, let's make it more interesting just from a
Mhm.
technical perspective. How about we build it such that we can have contributors and we can have people log in, and people who become members have special benefits like building their own playlists, that kind of thing. So that's what got us started on this road.
Yep.
Plus, I get to pair with Ted, so that's cool.
Yes. Yeah, and so we have been so this is episode 13. So we have we've been going for a while. We have a playlist on YouTube, and you'll find the link in the description if you're on YouTube. If not, I'll pop it up somewhere. And we started out with some domain-driven design stuff, event storming to figure stuff out, learn some stuff there, and then basically we've been test driving along the way. And luckily, last time we left ourselves with a failing test. So hopefully that will help us figure out where we need to go from here.
Sounds good.
All right. Should I bring up your screen?
Sure.
All right.
And I ran the test while we were talking. We got the failing test. And look, our JIRA says work on skipped empty rows. And literally, that's the failing test. So
All right.
JIRA is
Cool.
accurate. It's in sync. So what we got here is it looks like we created a test. You can tell it's been a while because I'm saying it looks like. We had a test called skip blank rows. And just to give you some context, we were implementing a parser for bulk import of text that somebody would copy from a spreadsheet that turns out in Excel, if you copy from that, you get tab delimited columns
In the clipboard, yeah.
in the clipboard. Yeah, if you copy from
Yep.
clipboard. And we're going with the simplest thing that would work at first, which is just a giant edit box where we can throw in paste what we got from the clipboard from Excel. And so we've been coding that, and we're now at the what if you have a blank row
Mm-hmm.
corner case. And we wrote a test for it, which is not fully shown on the screen. There it is, where we give it 3 rows, but we're expecting 2 songs, and it failed.
Right.
So,
And I remember last time we were like, why isn't this failing? And it turned out we weren't running the test. So always be careful which tests you're running. Even experts like us make mistakes like that. And it's it's always tempting to run some subset of tests, but in general, it's really a good idea to just always run all the tests. And if they run fast, then it's not an issue.
which is another reason to have running fast tests.
Yeah.
so that you don't take shortcuts.
Yeah.
So
And I
this is
thought
an
it was,
interesting. Oh, sorry. Go.
I was going to say, so in terms of running tests and tests run fast, I was doing something where there was some random number or something else, and I'm like, let me throw this in a parameterized test and have it run 1,000 times, and just to show that it is not the tests that take any time to run. It took no longer to basically run that test plus a bunch of others than it did without the parameterized test. So it was like, oh wait, it already ran all of them. Wow, that was quick. But it's all in, if they're all in memory, then the stuff just runs really fast. And most of the time, waiting for tests to run is all the compilation and JVM startup. So
Yep. Totally true. So we've got this test failing where should we dive in, by the way?
yeah, let's do it.
Okay. And it fails because it's saying it actually throws an exception
Hmm.
from require. We're getting the not of columns exception, which is this code, which checks the
Yep,
number of
we
columns. We
gotta.
want it to be at least 9.
Yep. And so that's our own exception. Not enough
It's our own
columns.
exception.
Yeah.
So now it begs the question, interestingly enough, here in the production code, we parse the song. This is a method that's called for each song.
Hmm.
Um, so now it's like, well, if there's less than max columns, is it really an exception case? Or do we do, if there's one column, we ignore, and anything from 1, 2 to 9 is an exception? Like, hey, something's janky with your spreadsheet. If you get like 2
Well,
columns of data,
yeah. I mean, I think for parsing, so parse song is basically parse a line,
one line,
single
yeah,
line, one line into a song object.
right,
Um, and I think if it's not valid, we throw an exception. It needs to have, we sort of, I think we agreed that it's got to have 9 columns. Um,
right,
and so I think we need to look out one level to detect whether there's actually any content at all. Because I think what we're saying, I mean, so our test is giving us our intention. What do we want? You know,
right,
I'll bring up my TD game, right? The what should it do? What should it do is if we hit a blank line, that's actually not an error. We just want to
right,
ignore it.
yeah.
And so that's what the test says we do. It doesn't expect an exception, so that's what we should do. So I think if
Oh, I,
we get a blank line there, um, and we can basically modify our stream. I think we can use a stream function to skip blank lines.
mhm,
That should fix it.
got it. So then what we'll do is, let's see, go back to the, so this gets called by parse song.
Right.
What we're going to say is just don't let parse song called get
Right.
called
Exactly.
if it's empty.
Right. Right. So basically, don't bother even trying to parse a blank line
Right.
because that's just we're gonna basically just ignore it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah,
It
my
took
idea
so
was
long.
one level too low.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yep.
So we want to go
But
back to
I think
the,
it's really interesting. Like we are expressing the desired behavior. We wrote this test saying we want a blank line to be allowed as input. We're just going to ignore it, and that's like literally what the test is saying. The
right.
behavior we want, um, and I think it's underestimated how powerful thinking about this in this precise way. How powerful that is. Like even if you don't do very short cycle TDD, even just doing test first and really thinking about what is it I actually want, um, just continues to amaze me that I could have coded any other way.
It is a hard to go back.
Yeah, because I just know when I'm doing spikes or other stuff where I'm not doing test first, uh, you're just writing it feels like I'm just piling on more and more code without, because you're almost stream of consciousness and just piling on more code without really any justification. So yeah. Thanks, Tukes.
Oh,
So we got a failing test. It fails for the right reason. Should we make it pass?
yeah. So streams, as you know, is one of my weaknesses. So what's the magic incantation to tell the stream to say if this line is empty, just skip it?
So Stream has a poorly named method called filter. And the reason why it's poorly named is, are you filtering out or filtering in?
Oh, interesting.
I wish they'd called it keep, because that's what it's doing. And so filter takes a predicate. So if you go on to the bottom line 15 and a half,
Okay,
and then dot.
keep.
So it's not
Oh,
keep,
filter.
it's filter.
So yeah,
It
you already
should,
got me
I already
training on the
got you,
ways.
yeah. And so filter takes a predicate, and basically a predicate is something that returns a true or false. So we want to say which ones do we want to keep are those that where the
Are
string is not empty,
not empty.
not empty.
Not empty. Yeah.
So we can do empty and just see the test fail. So if you do a lambda or just string colon colon, we can go right to the so
Capital
uppercase
or
S,
lower?
upper S,
Okay.
and second colon colon empty, colon, double colon empty
Oh, yeah, my bad.
is empty. Sorry,
Oh,
lowercase I, because it's a method. That's all right. You're rusty.
I am.
So this
Now
basically
this should
says
fail,
this
right?
should make things even worse, because now we're saying let's only keep blank lines.
Right. So let's run that test. So as it Alt Shift F10.
Right.
Oh yeah,
So
we
now
broke
we've
all of
broken
creation.
everything. Yeah. Yeah. So what we can do is we can um, invert that by wrapping it in a knot.
Oh,
So
there isn't a not empty.
there's not a not empty,
Oh,
which kind of sucks. So we have to wrap the entire method call. So you can do a .arg, I think,
oh
if you want.
yeah. Oh, my case. Oh, it worked anyways.
That worked
Wow.
anyway. Yeah. And we can say just the word not, lowercase
Lowercase.
n. Yeah. Or yeah, because it's going to be that first predicate dot not there.
Hmm.
So this basically inverts it. And so I expect that it will fix all the other tests as well as fixing our current test.
Yes.
All right. Wheatlaw has an interesting
If
suggestion. If you
if
really like your bangs, uh, then this is your method. Otherwise, I prefer our
line is
filter
not.
predicate.
Oh my.
I feel like I just need to just delete all the knots. And hey, there wasn't a
I do
double.
like this
Never mind.
predicate not. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's and often for that kind of thing, I'll actually make it. I'll import the predicate directly. So if you ask IntelliJ, it'll not qualify the.
Oh, I see. Did you want me to do that, or best just leave it for now?
We can just leave it for now. But if you hit Alt Enter, you can see what it suggests. So we would do add the static import. So just get rid of the predicate dot.
That's cool.
I think that's more readable. I tend to not use a lot of static imports, but I think in this case, this is one of those where I do it.
Well, I
And
guess
what's nice is this is like super
when
readable.
learning, it's
Yeah,
probably good to have this for a little
yeah,
while,
yeah.
and then like, yeah, okay, now I know what that is. Oh, I did undo the wrong way. What's redo? Control Shift Z.
There you go. Now you might want to give it a reformat because indentation got off.
Oh yeah, that one I don't remember. Alt.
Control Alt L.
Let me see if I see. Yeah, Control Alt L. Well, as long as the cursor's on the app and not on my notepad.
Yep. That helps.
Just to make sure I didn't break anything, I reran the test.
Yep. So Ibragimov, you can certainly ask. We may decide though that it's too far afield, but you can always ask.
Indentation still broken.
I think he's pulling your leg. That's Wheatlaw for you.
Bang ceremony.
All right, so let's close this Jira ticket.
Woohoo! Jira 53 done. So then I guess we got to figure out are there any other negative cases that we want to test.
Do we? What else might we? Yeah, what else might we want to?
Yeah, what is
cover?
I'm just going to do a shortcut that I think is right, but it's probably wrong. Nope. I wanted to see the list of methods.
Oh.
Oh no, that's not it.
I don't.
I have all these Post-it notes right in front of me, but that's not one that I have. I think.
Control F12.
Control F12. Really? That doesn't sound right. Oh, that is right. File structure.
Yeah, I don't know why it comes up as it is structure, and it is a structure of the file. It is sensitive to what kind of file you're in. So like if you were in a different kind of file, then it would show you a different structure. You can also make that window permanent with Alt 7, and that pops in as a tool window.
While it's in flight.
Not Alt F7, Alt and the number 7.
Oh, Alt 7.
Yeah.
So.
So that's a tool window, so that pops in and stays there.
Got it.
So there's often a pop-up for a lot of the tool windows. Yeah, so what Wheatlaw was talking about in terms of the indentations is true. It's like if we renamed on the bottom right the TSV songs to something else, then all the indentation would now be wrong.
Oh.
But that's why I auto reformat every time I do a commit, so it's not a big deal.
And actually, that is an incorrect name. Parsing a single song, right?
No, that's parsing all of them.
Oh, right. It's the other one.
Yeah.
This one's it's the single song. Yeah.
Oh, hey, Astrid. Nice to see you.
Howdy.
Alex, I know the feeling. I often watch videos in 1.5, two times speed, and then it's like, why are you talking so slow? And hey there, 127. Okay, localhost.
Nice.
So what do we want to do next? Are there any other negative cases that we can think of? So we handled blank lines. We handled lines with not enough columns.
Empty row. Interesting. Empty row versus, what is that test? How is that different than skip blank rows?
So that's parsing. So that one we probably want to rename the method. It's basically if we try to parse an empty row, then it throws an exception.
Ah, right, that one. Okay.
Parse empty single row throws exception is probably what it should be.
Okay. Parse empty single row throws
Exception.
Exception, just straight up exception.
Yeah.
What do you want to name it?
I usually don't put the name of the exception in the test method because it's crystal clear on line 49 what exception we
Right.
expect.
Plus, if you did want to change this, then you have to remember to change the name of the
Yeah,
method.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm not thinking of any others, but
Well, so one thing we currently are not handling, at least I don't think we are, is what if one of the columns exists but is empty? So, for example,
oh, kind of
if we
like
if we left out the title of a song, or the artist was empty, right? Basically
right.
any of the columns that we're actually pulling out, what if they're empty?
Yeah, I think we even had it somewhere around here in our thing. What was required? I think I even used a star. There it is.
Yeah,
So the things that were required were the themes, theme or themes,
right,
artist, song title.
right.
So yeah,
So,
that's probably something we could add.
yeah. So an interesting question then is where do we add that? We could add it in the parsing in the code that's showing on the screen at the bottom, or we could force, um, or we could basically make sure that song keeps its integrity and basically validate in the constructor. Do we validate?
Ah,
Do we do any validation in the song constructor? No,
no,
because it's
it's
just
just
a
a
record.
record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so those are our two options. We can check for empty strings in our parse song, or we can check for basically invalid data in our song record.
I'm just writing down our Jira ticket to be clear. Sure, each song must have.
I would say not at least, but non-empty. And is there any other validation we want around those? Does it have to be a minimum length?
I don't see a reason to have minimum length. There's
Yeah,
certainly bands that have one
yeah,
letter names, song
sure.
titles, themes, not, but
Yeah,
heck, there could be a theme about, Sesame Street, the letter A, right?
right,
So,
right,
I mean, I would probably call that the letter A rather than just A,
right.
but um,
All right, so then we should probably that's funny.
but
Sorry, it's not a new song. Um, so then I think that's probably the only other negative case I can think of. Um, so let's do it.
okay. So actually, the doing it part, we still didn't decide whether we want to do it in the constructor validation or in.
Yeah, so I think this is constructor validation.
That's where I was
Be,
heading to. So I think we're on the
because
same page.
yeah, because you want the object to protect itself from having invalid data, so it
Right.
must check the incoming data to make sure
Otherwise, it'd be feature envy, right? Where
it would be feature envy. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, because if parse song was doing it, then it was doing the work that the song object should be
right.
doing.
And we could also do it in parse song, but I don't see much of a benefit other than it has more information. And it's always an interesting trade-off of so parse song could tell you, hey, and actually even parse song couldn't tell you
Because we
what you
don't know what
wanted.
row it is.
We don't know what row it is. Yeah, it could tell you what the whole line is, which makes it easier because all song is going to tell you is like, hey, one of these was blank, and it's hard to find it might be hard to find a blank artist. Um, But yeah, you'd want the row to do it.
Would there be value in telling parsong what row they're working on for an error reporting perspective?
I I sometimes do that, but I really try not to because I
It
feel like
feels cringy to me, but I wanted
yeah,
to say it out loud anyway.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Um, yeah, so there is an idea, and we could do this at the parse at the top level parse thing is basically um, hold on to basically run through the entire thing, not fail at the first problem. And we've talked about this before, not fail at the first problem, but basically then generate a list of, hey, couldn't parse these lines. And I generally think for this type of thing, um, that's what you want because it's sort of like you don't want to say, "Oh, great, I fixed it," and now it shows you the next one that's broken, and then you fix
right?
that, and then you find the next one that's broken,
Yeah, banging your head against the wall. Yeah.
which is very annoying. Uh, so we probably want to do that. So let's add a Jira for that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it sounds like we need to add one. How do I want to word this? To
I think we can just say then to return all at once.
right.
So what do we do um, in our test for parse problems? What are our parse problems tests? So that's a happy scenario.
Yeah.
That's a happy scenario. Uh, that's a happy scenario-ish. It's
Yeah, it's an
sort of
interesting one because what if, I mean, I wouldn't do this, but what if the first theme was empty and then the second one, I guess that could happen. I'm going to bring up the spreadsheet. Let me get one with multiple themes. So here, what if, so like this song, Heartbreak, has heartbreak and sunglasses. What if
mhm,
later on I determine, it's not and I delete it?
mhm.
But I mean, really, this is going to be a one bulk load. I mean, I guess it could happen, but I think the odds are screamingly low. I'm not sure we want to code for that weird scenario
Yeah,
at
I
this
mean,
point.
we could, but,
Yeah,
you know, I I agree it's probably not high on our list.
yeah,
So that one's fine. That's basically saying we only pay attention to those columns.
yeah,
Uh, so this one is basically saying if there's an empty row, then we throw an exception. And rows with not enough columns. Empty rows, sort of the degenerate case of not enough columns.
right. And this is only if it's the first row, because is that right?
Well, so one
We're
issue we have
skipping
in our
empty rows.
one issue we have in this test is we're actually calling two different methods, right? We're calling the one that takes multiple lines, and we're calling the parse single line one directly.
Right.
Should we be doing that? Maybe not. That's like the parse in a single line perhaps should not be public. Um, because that is somewhat of an implementation detail, but because really the entry in the
Right.
parser is about parsing a multi-line thing. So we
Yeah,
might
it's a
want to,
good point. How many do we have? How many tests do we have testing that one? Just that one. Oh no, two. 20.
no, just one
Oh, just one.
test.
Oh, we one test. Yeah, yeah.
So we could convert that test that's testing that directly. We should be able to convert that. Uh, oh, can we convert that? Can we actually? So this is interesting since we're now skipping blank lines.
That's what I was heading with this. Is I think
Does
this
this,
one.
yeah, does this test make any sense?
I
If
don't
we
think anymore.
made parse song private, then there's no way this could happen.
Correct.
And let's make sure of that. So let's change this test to call parse directly with an empty string, and we expect it to just return to complete successfully. So it won't throw the exception, and that's what the error will go on. Yeah. What if we put a space in there? Or sorry,
Oh,
what if we put a \n for a new line?
oh,
I expect that to still be fine because it's just going to be now 2 blank lines.
fine meaning still fail.
Yeah, because it's still
Yeah.
not going to throw an exception.
Yeah, yeah.
What if we put a space before the \n?
Different error.
Yeah, so we basically said is empty, not blank. And I wonder if uh, we probably want to detect that as well. So when we wrote there on line 19, we wrote is empty, but really we probably mean is blank. And if you're going to change that without a test, I'm going to be
Yell at
upset.
me. No, we have a test.
Well, we have a
Failing.
test. Well, but is this test failing for the right reason?
Let's see.
Perhaps if
Parse
we convert
empty.
it.
Well, let's see. This is the test. We're calling parse now instead of a single song.
So I think what we can do is we can, for the most part,
I mean, the name of the test should change.
yes. Well, I was going to say we should just delete this test and write one specifically about space, basically a blank line as opposed to an empty line.
Right.
But I think what we've done, before we do that, let's delete this test. Let's change parse to private and do a commit. Yeah, so I think is blank does handle all white space.
We'll find out.
We'll find out.
What do we do? We got the skip rows working.
Yeah, so we have skip blank rows working, and we made parse song public private.
What was it called again? Skip blank rows. Hey, good.
Yep.
Hey. So now if we run the test, everything should be green because we deleted
Yeah, we probably should have
the
done it
failing
before
test.
we
We committed.
committed.
Whoops.
That's fine.
Okay, so we want to write a new test. So this one's called skip blank rows.
And I think
What if
we
we? No, a bit too obscure to like put in a space here because it'd be interesting. You mind if we do that? I'm gonna put a space here and just run it and see what happens. Because right now it's checking is empty.
right.
So this should fail.
Yes.
Oh,
I believe because the text blocks trim spaces at the end.
oh,
If you don't want it to do so, one thing you could do is put in the Unicode for a space.
that one I do not have memorized, but I'll have to look that up.
That would basically be /U0020. Don't forget the U to
Whoops,
tell it that it's
thanks.
Unicode.
Yeah,
Lowercase u. I think I don't know if uppercase would work, but it's lowercase.
run it.
Yeah, even because that happens at the compile level, so it probably doesn't matter.
Oh, interesting. So
Uh,
then, how are we going to test this? Or we have to do a non.
we'd have to do a non text block version.
Got it. Let's put that back the way it was and write a new test. Actually, what do you think? I'm thinking after. Skipped empty rows. Is that too subtle a difference in naming? Wait a second, no. This one says skip blank rows, but it's really skipping empty rows.
That's true. So let's change that one.
Let's fix this one.
Yeah.
And but I just feel that skip blank versus skip empty is very subtle.
Well, we could convert back from we could change the earlier one and just convert the text block to non-text block, and then we can add white spaces more easily.
Is that a
I don't know if IntelliJ will do that for us. You can try with an Alt Enter.
oh, just do Alt Enter from the end?
Yeah.
Replace with the regular string literal.
I think that's what you want. So go down. Yes, that's what we want. And so now you can put a space before that \n.
I was thinking doing, is it 200 or 2000? No, 0.
It's 0020.
The reason that is I was thinking just having this is really subtle.
Yes, yes. And then we can add another row with just a tab, just to show that we know we'll detect any white space, but we could just
Is that what you're thinking? Or with,
yeah, and then \n. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it complaining about at the end of line 62, where it's orange?
Oh. Oh, it's saying it can be replaced with a text block.
It's like, well, no, actually it can't. So if we run this, we expect it to fail because the tab is not going to be detected. Actually, neither one of those lines is going to be detected. Right. And yeah, we would expect that. Yeah. So let's go make the easy change.
Let's see. So require at least 9 columns.
Oh, interesting. So if we wanted to use the text block, we could use a space if we specify it as an octal character as opposed to a Unicode.
What? Octal?
Yeah, so if you do \040, which
Right.
is the octal for space, that will work because that gets translated at a different time than the \Unicode stuff. fun knowledge about compilers.
Good Lord. What was I going to ask?
So Wheelo, that's actually not quite true. The backslash at the end of a line does something different. So yeah, so we changed that to blank. That should work.
Yeah. Yep. Sweet. Now we can get rid of this. The beginning of a test we were going to write.
Yeah.
Back to Jira.
Yep. And so just to clarify, so Wheatlaw mentions adding a backslash at the end of a text block. What a backslash does is it actually prevents a new line terminator from being inserted into the string. So that's useful if you wanted to create a long string on multiple lines. That's actually not what we want. We actually want new lines.
Right.
So the backslash 040 trick is what you want if you want to actually have some detectable white space. All right. So we skip empty rows, we skip blank rows, and now we can do some tests against song to ensure that songs don't have empty stuff.
Yep.
Let's do a commit since we just changed some code.
What did we end up calling that test? Fix empty rows.
Actually, we need to do one
now
more
it's
thing.
blank. Sorry.
So I was going to say we should have a blank, an actual empty, then a blank, and then a different blank, and then another row.
Oh, a separate test or all within this test?
we basically had taken out the one that's empty, so let's put the empty one back. So this should be skip empty and blank rows.
Okay.
Because I'm fine with having this be in one test.
Cool. Is that what you were thinking?
Yes.
Okay. We rerun it. Sweet. Oh, good. We already checked that.
Yeah. So we'll ask a good question. I'm actually curious too. Like, what does it do with that space? Does it do it correctly? If we convert it to a multi-line now, what does it do with that line 64? That's broken. Wow, that's broken. That's a bug.
That
because that won't work.
Do you?
Hey, we just found a bug.
Yeah. Or do you think there's actually no? But that it'll
No,
get
we
rid of the
tried.
spaces.
We
know
tried that.
Rips them out. Yeah.
And the specification says nope, that won't work.
Right.
What it should really do is the only thing it can do is put a backslash 040. But that's a corner case. But still, that's a bug. That's an incorrect replacement.
Are you going to file that bug?
I will note to file that bug. So hey, Wheatlaw, you just found a bug. Text block with white space converted incorrectly. All right. So let's do a commit again since we changed.
Sorry, what did you say?
Let's do that commit now.
Yeah.
So now it's we're skipping blank lines as well. Oh, it looks like you can use \s also instead of \040.
Does that mean
Oh,
space?
that does mean space.
Okay. Let me commit and you want to try it?
Um,
Or do you want to move on?
I'm curious. So let's change the Unicode 20 to that just \s. Yeah. So and
What do
now
you
if we ask IntelliJ what would this look like as a text block, would it do the right thing this time? Probably because it just takes the \s. So does that work? Let's replace it and see if that works. That I think will work because that doesn't get replaced during parse time. Yeah. What do we think of that?
I like it actually.
Yeah.
It's cleaner. If I didn't know what /s was, I would go and look it up.
We go look it up. Yeah.
You know,
I think I like that. Yeah.
cool. Let's check that one in now.
Thanks for the caffeinate, Astrid. Um, yes. And this is why you can't use the Unicode, because it happens during basically parsing your source code. It's replaced at that point, whereas the \s and the \040, those are parsed later, and so they remain. So, yep. Fun stuff about compilers.
So new test.
Yes, new test. And this will be in our song. Do we have a song test? We probably don't have a song test,
I don't believe we
right? Because we
because it's a
probably
record.
because it's a record and it has no behavior, so we didn't have any tests. But we're now about to implement
So we have to switch.
constraints. Yeah,
Sorry, what did you say?
I was saying we're about to implement some constraints, so we'll want a song
Yeah.
test.
Get. Does
Alt
this work
Shift
from here?
T. Alt Shift T. No.
Oh,
I
does
mean, you could
this work?
generate a test. That'll work too.
What were you thinking with the Alt Shift T?
That is a more direct way to get to the test class.
It's the same thing. Yeah. I'll just do this one for change of pace.
Yeah, that's all good.
Move this up above. You want to do one per or do them all in one? Like ensure artist is not empty.
Let's do one, and then we can decide what we want to do after that first one. Because I'm thinking we could do them all if the error message, we can figure out what kind of error message we want, or if we want, we could also do a parameterized test. But let's start with the simplest thing and then figure it out from there.
Okay. So we don't care about that one. Just be blank. blank.
So I would say to be clear about this test, what I'd want the only thing to be blank is the artist,
Ah, yeah, good
right?
point.
Because
Yep.
otherwise it's unclear why the other stuff is blank.
I feel like this construct's not right.
Yeah, it's fine.
It is right. Okay.
Although my code OCD is going to complain that your theme has an uppercase T at the beginning and none of the
Oh,
others do.
it's funny when I was typing it. Part of my brain was going, something's wrong there, but I just
Yeah.
was so focused on the list of. Okay. AST song.
Well, so the question is, what do we want if we try to create a song with that? We're likely going to need to throw an exception.
Yeah, so it's the wrong.
Yeah. So I think what we can do is we can say assert that we can start with illegal argument exception. Yeah, that one, first one. Then hit enter, and then dot is thrown by. And now no. What
Nope.
we want now, we want a lambda, so open close paren arrow. And then you can copy the call to the new song. So we don't need the variable song, we just need the new song to the end of the line.
Got it.
So what we're saying is, if we call a constructor with these parameters, we expect it to throw an illegal argument exception.
Like that.
Yep.
Semicolon.
Yes, that helps.
Okay. Now this is
And
going to. Oh,
delete 14 because we don't want it to throw the exception there. So the entire test is
oh,
basically
is in.
just the assertion. Yeah.
Got it. So now this will fail because it's not going to throw an
This will
exception,
fail because it's not going to throw anything. Yeah.
or it better fail.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay.
So Alex asks, will we in general have validations inside the domain model? Yes, that's where they belong. So invariance, which means things that the object should not be allowed, what status should be allowed, like basically this is an invariant. We're saying artist cannot be empty. So you should not be able to create an object with an empty artist. That's an invariant, right? It must have a non-blank artist, must have a non-blank title, and so on. There are validations that you might do in the adapter, such as may as well check it at the front end if there's an empty artist. You could probably even push that into the browser so that you could never even submit something. And so my goal there's always two different kinds of validations. There's what I kind of consider syntactic, like something's empty, it shouldn't be. Something has a character that's not allowed, or is missing a character that it needs, like an email address. I'm going to check for an @ sign and a dot, and that's it. I'm not going to do anything else. And that I want sort of as close as possible to where it came in, so that I can provide the most useful error kind of response. But then there are domain invariants, which can only be done inside of the domain. Like, you can't have more than 100 songs with this theme or something like that. Not that you'd implement that, but that would be kind of invariant that could only be detected in the domain or inside the application. So
So would so for example, the email thing, you're looking for a at and a dot. Um, you check that, as close to the input, whether it's a UI or a REST call. Um, but does that mean you would not check it at the domain level?
no, what I'd be checking at the domain level is, did the user confirm it? Because to me, there's no
Hmm,
point in even having some complex regular expression. I've seen this happen over and over again, where people use some complex regular expression to say whether an email is correct. And really, it doesn't matter because it may still pass the regular expression, but they typed it wrong, or it's not their email. And so there's no point in doing any other checking other than minimal, like you forgot a dot or you forgot the at sign. But anything else, you should just basically then send him an email, and then when they click a button, you can now say it's confirmed, and that's in the domain.
okay, I guess let me choose a different example.
Okay.
The one where that's no, what you said is great.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, so for example, this, right? This is where we want song to be not empty. Like you said, I could imagine us wanting to have that checked at the front end,
Yes.
but I can also imagine the domain object going,
Yes.
I want to make sure this is.
Yes. And so Alex is right here. You generally have to duplicate your syntactic rules, your syntactic
Mm,
validation rules, because you definitely want to protect your domain from having invalid data. You don't know where the data came from, but the adapter also wants to be responsive and friendly, um, as well as, maybe there's no point in even forwarding it on when it can't possibly be right. Like this ID should have been a number and it's got letters in it. There's no point in trying to create an ID out of it because it can't possibly work. And you can respond better because you have more information. Like one thing we noticed with the parsing of the songs is when we're down at parsing an individual line, we don't have the larger context.
right.
And it's the same idea with the UI. With the UI, we know exactly which field you type this in, and we can basically in the controller saying this field is invalid. And in fact, we can push some of that validation onto the framework. So you generally have um, and I have like an hour and a half long presentation on exactly this topic of validation in hexagonal architecture, and you end up having to duplicate these rules, which I've seen time and time again. Um, People trying to shortcut that and say, let's create the rules on the back end, and then we'll translate it into something that can be done on the front end. So they'll basically take some kind of domain specific language of defining validation rules and then having a way to translate that into the front end and JavaScript and things like that. And that can work, but it feels like now you're maintaining multiple things. But if you have a lot of that kind of stuff, then it can definitely be worth it.
My initial reaction was it sounds extreme dry. Um,
And you
I,
have to make sure it's justified. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. 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 Great question, Alex.
yeah,
Um, we're at the hour. Do you want to take a break now?
yeah, that'd be good.
And then
Um,
we'll
let's make it
uh
6 or 7 minutes.
sounds good. So I'll set my timer. Let me get my
While you do your magic, I'm going to take off.
all right. See you in 6 to 7 minutes. All right, and before we get back into it, just a reminder that I have a Discord, and so if you have further questions on this app or other stuff, don't hesitate to join the Discord. So the link, so ted.dev/discord gives you the link to the Discord if you're not already there. If you are, great. Ask questions, get in discussions. As you probably know, if you're already in Discord, I run a book club, and we finished our last book a few weeks ago, and we're coming up on Sunday to start our next book, which is The Programmer's Brain. So go check out on the Discord, the book club channel. You see the details, and hit me up if you want to join. It's not too late. In fact, like as I say, it's never too late, right? If you miss the first week, no big deal. You'll just catch up on the next week's. If you can't make it every time, don't worry about that either. Make the ones you can. But it's a great way to really read something more closely and get confusion resolved and questions answered, and just sort of share experiences with other folks. So go ahead and do that. And back to coding.
I think there was a question from Astrid a little bit back about lyrics. I think what Astrid's asking is like, will we have lyrics in a future version of the site?
Did I miss that question?
It's right above Alex, 951.
Oh, I thought that was asking about lyrics for a song named Song Test, but
oh, maybe I misunderstood it. But we are, it is on our Jira very far down.
Yeah.
But including a link to lyrics.
Yeah.
I think including the lyrics itself might be interesting. But
yeah, that probably some legal issues. We can certainly provide a link to lyrics.
Yeah.
I think she was playing with words, but even if not, that's a feature we might have at some point.
Yeah.
All right.
So
yep.
So if we're going to tackle this, does this switch from a record back to a class?
No, you can still implement methods. You just don't have to implement all the boilerplate.
Oh, interesting. That's sweet. So we'll basically implement a constructor?
Indeed, we will. So we basically create so you can go ahead and generate a constructor. So if you're inside the record,
Alt insert.
Yeah,
there it is. Alt insert.
And then constructor. And we want a compact constructor. And so that's the benefit of the record, is you don't have to specify all the parameters. They're still available, but you don't have to specify them. So we have access to artist, song title, and so on.
Just straight up, or do you have to do like
just
this dot artist?
Nope.
Ah.
I mean, you could do this dot. It basically is the same thing.
Right. Oh, sweet.
Hey, Jonas, welcome.
Howdy.
Nice to see you. So let's make the test pass.
Okay. We want to just straight up, we want to put some text in there.
Well,
we're probably going to convert to a custom one, right?
Probably, and also we don't have a test for that.
Right. Point well taken.
Yes.
I like the smirk. Well deserved on my end. Okay, let's run this test. Do we think it'll
that looks like it'll fail.
Fail or pass?
I mean, pass.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm like, what typo did I have?
No.
Okay, it passed.
All
Sweet.
right.
So what do you think? Grow this test to check other fields, or have one per?
So now we can talk about what do we want um, to happen if both the song and both the artist and the
Oh,
song title are empty. Do we want it to just immediately throw on artist, or do we want it to basically say that, hey, now both are missing?
right. Well, both are missing would be much nicer error
I
message
agree.
if it was me.
I agree. So
I think in that case, a new test.
yeah. I mean, these tests
Yeah,
are not long. So
right.
um, although if we do want to convert the exception before we copy the existing tests, now would be a good time to do that.
Right.
So if we want a custom test, custom exception, what would we want to call it?
Song.
Missing song attribute?
That's a generic one. Or would you want? I was thinking it would be per like missing artist. But I guess the downside of that is
Well, you can only throw one of them if you do it that
right.
way. That's why I was
Yeah,
thinking more
yeah.
generic.
Right. Yeah,
So
I
so
think
if we
that's
want to
good.
go where if artist and song are missing,
And it's gonna go in the
uh,
body of it or
yeah,
in the message.
yeah. Yes. So James Boone brings up, can the artist be null? We didn't actually do a null check, so
No.
we will have to do that as well.
Do we? Is it even gonna get
Yeah.
it,
So that's actually a really interesting question. Do we need to protect against nulls here?
yeah, because where it's
Because generally the only way it gets created is coming in through through the parse, and the only way and you can't parse and get a null out of that.
right.
So it's one of those, is like, how paranoid are you? And I'm fine not checking for nulls at the song level.
That's kind of where I'm at this point because of the structure of it, where
Yeah,
and just not to think too much about the future, but like, okay, coming in from a bulk import, yes, we're clearly dealing with it at the parse level.
right.
So then if we had a UI, be kind of somewhat similar where it wouldn't be null, it would be
It would
empty.
be empty. Yeah. Yeah,
So
because any nulls we would have, yeah. So for me, I generally, and this goes back to sort of the validation level areas. Like, to me, I'd be validating around null at the edge of the system, and assuming by the time you get to the domain, we've eliminated any possibility of nulls. So Astrid brings up again, like, do we want is blank or is empty? And we again sort of have to say, do we protect? So is empty just means a zero length string. Is blank means has only white space. But at the song level, do we care?
first song test.
I mean, we already protected it. Well, we're not protecting against individual. I'd probably say we probably do want to check for should not be blank.
So here, this will be
So
is blank.
yeah, so if we're going to want that to be as blank, then we need to add a test.
Right. This one,
I think we like I would be fine with one test that basically says should not
oh, it
be
takes care of both.
empty nor blank.
But so 2 assertions within it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Or do you want to do the /s to make it really clear?
I like the \s.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so now, well, we were currently in failing test mode, weren't we? No, we were
No, it
past.
passed. It passed for
Okay,
that, and now it'll fail again because we've got a blank, not an empty.
right. So, and then we can make it pass.
So Jonas, we're in the domain, and so we're not allowed to use anything from Spring. And there's really no reason to use Spring in this case. But even so, we're in our application layer, and inside we're doing hexagonal. So inside, we're not allowed to use framework. Even though that's a library, I would not be pulling in framework stuff in that way. I think if you have a song title that's just white spaces, you're going to have problems in the modern world.
Oh man, that's a very Cajun question, though, don't you think?
Yes.
Man, what an awesome comment, James. Tangent. Did you hear that they're playing Cage's longest piece? That's 639 years long.
Oh, really?
It's like,
I didn't
yeah,
know that.
it's like,
Yeah.
you play a note now and then another note a year
Right.
from now.
Right.
You know,
Nice.
somewhere in Europe. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Are there songs with blank spaces? That's
I think we can safely assume that if they
yeah,
are,
no, I know.
they're gonna be expressed
It's
using
the
actual
music.
words.
Yeah, no, it's the music and geek in me that's going.
Yeah.
Uh,
It wouldn't surprise me if somebody had that, but
yeah,
because artists.
yes, because artists exactly. As a music librarian, a volunteer music librarian, I've seen some crazy corner cases.
Yeah.
So okay,
All
so
right.
making this is blank should pass.
Yeah.
Both of them. Sweet.
So we could turn this into a parameterized test. That might make it a little bit easier to read and easier to see the difference.
I could go look for the. I know we did it before. What is it? Is it at param?
It's that parameterized test, so it replaces the at test.
Ah, got it. And then you pass it some values.
Yeah, so we had to figure out what kind of parameterized test we'd want. If we do a value source, is that what we want? Yeah, value source is good. So sorry, value source is another annotation. So it's parameterized test with no parens. And then value source, and then inside there, we're going to say strings, lowercase strings, equals, and then open curly brace, and then we have our 2 parameters. So empty and blank. And then if you do an extract parameter on one of the empty or blank ones, and then just replace this one, we'll delete the other one. That's fine.
Yep.
And then you can delete the second assert. And
Is that right?
that's it. That should do it.
Rerunning the test. There you go.
And just to prove that parameterized test is working, let's add one more value source that's not blank. And so that should fail. That should fail.
Yep.
And so since that failed, but it didn't tell us why, let's go to parameterized test. And what we can do is we can create, so inside the parens, say name equals, and then then a string in quotes will say, oh, this is going to be weird. We can say something like artist name, and then put like a single quote. So space single quote. So sorry, back up. You want, and then inside the single quote, we want a curly brace, 0 curly brace. So what that does is at runtime, it'll replace that curly brace 0 with a parameter, but we're putting single quotes around it because we don't know
what in double quotes.
Because we're in double quotes. We could escape it, but basically want to say that. So now if it fails, should tell us why it failed, the parameter that failed. Yeah, so it actually is the name of the test on the left.
Oh, interesting.
Why didn't that
actually
work?
You know what? Can we undo this for a sec?
Sure.
Because if you look at what the default did, I actually think it was nicer. See, it says 3 artists.
Oh, that's true. Okay, then actually let's leave it. I forgot that that's where it shows up. So, yep. So you can delete the parens from the parameterized test then.
Oh, just straight up like that?
Yeah, yeah, because you don't need them.
And then we get rid of not blank baby.
Right. And then that should go back to passing, and then we can commit.
Commit. Oh, I know what I did wrong. I
think we just added check for blank as well as empty.
Yeah, I'm starting to like the idea of just not saying much in the comments.
Yeah, you misspelled empty though.
Oh.
So if you click on amend, the checkbox there above then you can just fix it. Yeah, so on my stream, I've been using the AI to write the comments, and it's just so wordy and verbose, as you would expect from an LLM. It's just like it just writes stuff. I'm like, yes, duh. Sometimes it's useful, but I generally do not accept what it writes for me, because it basically says, and so we've added a test to check for this exception to make sure that this is what we want, and that makes, and then it's like, and then it's just crap like, to make the code better or something like that. And it's like, LLMs.
Is it
yeah.
Is it Llewellyn that does the just single character commit messages? Like R for refactor.
That's Arlo Belshy's
it's Arlo
commit notation.
Yeah.
I try sometimes to use it. I don't use it enough. And since I'm not working in a team, it almost doesn't really matter that much as well. So
right.
So James, is it good? I have not found it very helpful. The chat part, so you can basically just chat with it, has been what you'd expect. I mean, it doesn't feel like it's any. It's maybe a little bit more. It's more convenient than switching over to ChatGPT. But I find the code that it suggests mostly useless. Yeah.
Somebody wanted the GitHub link.
I forget. Did you make that public?
I did. We did it a
Okay.
while ago.
Okay.
I'll put it in, but you'll have to repost it to.
Oh, I'll grab it. That's fine.
You got it?
I'll find it.
Here, I'll send it to you
So
via private chat.
what's the next test that we want? Right. So now we want to do another
test for.
Oh, did we want to change
song
the
coding.
exception? Did we want to change the exception first? We
Oh, that's it. Right. Yes. I sent the link to you via private.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
So did we come up with a name?
We didn't. We were starting to, then we got tangential.
So I had suggested missing attribute.
Missing just attribute straight up, or missing
Yeah.
song attribute?
We could say missing song attribute.
Because I could see we might have some other object where we're checking.
Yep.
Well, it could be generified, but I guess we could cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah, I'm good with missing song attribute.
Just create a class.
Yeah, just create a class.
It doesn't have a create exception. Not test. That part of IntelliJ drives me crazy.
Yeah, it's one of those. I understand why it does that. I just don't like it. I think we just want to extend runtime exception.
Runtime?
Yeah.
Okay.
And even though for me, it's technically ahead of what we need, I generally override the empty and single argument constructor because I know we're going to use it. I think it's Control O. You want the first two. Yep. Yep. Now you can close it. We're not going to need it again.
Yeah. Rerun test. It's going to fail.
It's going to fail because we're throwing the wrong exception.
Yep.
Yep.
Now it should pass.
Uh-huh.
So now, do we want to get more detailed in what we're sending with
I believe we do.
Yeah. I guess we could make a new test for that or make it part of this.
I think we can make so I generally have the message as part of the test that throws the test for throwing the exception. So we can say is thrown by, and then we can say has message with message. I think it's with message.
So let's see.
Before the semi. Yeah, with message. And now we can say artist missing. The artist is missing.
The artist has left the building.
Yes.
Is it missing or empty or blank or?
I guess blank would be more precise.
Yeah. Okay, now this should fail.
Right. All right.
I'm assuming argument. So this should pass.
This should pass, yes.
Okay.
And so now, now we need to test for
Song title.
song title. Yeah.
I'm going to just shamelessly steal here.
Mm-hmm. End of functor 0. Which test are you talking about? Which test method? Because we haven't done a whole lot at the controller level, other than checking that search results exist. So you have test and parameterized test. You just need parameterized test. They're mutually exclusive.
That was a bad.
Which I actually think is kind of annoying. I actually would like it to be at test and then at parameterized.
Right, because it's an attribute of the test.
To me, it's like, oh, now I want it to be parameterized. It's like, now I got to change the annotation. But I guess it processes it differently.
So you think construct a parameter name or more English human readable song title? I'm leaning towards this, but
I think that's fine because that's really what it is.
now let's double check. Does this look like it's going to fail?
All right. So I just want to end of functor 0 asked about something since he's looking at the project, obviously. Let's just jump over to the controller test. Song themes controller test.
My brain. There we go. Controller song theme controller test.
Controller test, yeah.
And where within it?
So which test method? So scroll down. No, just scroll down. So the first test, there's no results, so there's not going to be any results. Then line 39 is where we're testing for the search results, and all we care is that it's not empty. Right. So in this case, that's all we need to test. We don't need to test the actual song results because we already have tests against that. And so this is where you don't want redundant tests that are testing the same thing. And in general, this is something that can be a little bit hard to get used to, but this idea of so James Shore calls it overlapping sociable tests. I call them chain tests. Here, the only thing we need to check is that there's something in the search results. The actual search results we are testing directly against where that behavior is of actually getting the search results. And so we're chaining together different pieces of behavior. And this is always, for me, the annoying memes about, you always see these memes where it's like, unit tested but not integrated tested. And to me, that's just a complete misunderstanding of how to write tests. Like, oh, it's broken because you only wrote unit tests. Like, well, nobody said to only write unit tests. That's a straw man that makes no sense. But if you write unit tests, you don't have to write end-to-end tests. The whole point is you write unit tests that overlap. So we know that here we're going to get search results. We know that at the next layer, when we ask the song searcher for search results, we get the correct ones. Therefore, we know that if we ask for that from the front end, we're going to get the correct ones. And then it's, well, how do you know they're transformed correctly from song objects to what we see in the UI? Well, it's like we've got to test for the transformation. And so unit tests are all about making these very strong links that are linked together, and you get a very strong chain. So, all right. So back to our song test. So this fails because we don't get anything.
Right. We're not checking.
So let's go make it pass.
Oh, there's not a dot throw. Oh, there is. Okay, cool.
So end of under 0, right now there isn't a transformation test because literally it's the title. When we get to, if and when we get to more complex transformations of a song, then we will have tests against the song view object. But right now we don't have any tests against it because it's trivial. If it's trivial and it's easy to inspect, then there's no reason to write a test for it. If there's no logic or very little logic, then there's no need to test for it. TDD does not mean test every single possible thing.
Right. And if we had getters and setters, which we don't, you don't write tests for getters and setters.
Right.
So this is interesting. It passed.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting when we start having, okay, what do we want the message to be if both happen? Right. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Well, I think we should make that. I think we should do that now because it's only going to be
third.
Yeah, because it's only going to be harder when we add the third.
Yeah, good point. So now in this case, that would be another new test for sure.
That would be another new test, yes.
Yeah. Would we want to clone this sucker or? Good old Control D. So it'd be artist and
right. And I think here we can not bother with a parameterize, right? Because we've already tested the individual ones. Now we're testing that two are blank. However they're blank, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, good point. And it doesn't like the name.
Because it is a parameter that we're not using.
Oh, right.
But there's also probably something else wrong, like you're missing a closing curly. What is it not happy about? Oh, it was a parameter. Okay.
Yeah, it was a parameter. What?
Yeah, so IntelliJ, when you select something, if you have the option turned on, and by default it's on, when you select something and then you type a double quote, it's like, oh, you want me to put double quotes around what you selected. It does, so it doesn't replace it and then let you start typing, which is what you might expect.
Yeah.
I've gone back and forth about that option. I think I turned it off. So what do we want our, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm at some point I want to, speaking of options, I want to turn this visual noise off, the throwable type.
Yes. Can you
we have to do that.
Can you right click on it? I don't know if it'll let you. Yeah. So you can turn off the inlays. So it's what's called an inlay. The problem, so what I generally do is I have it turned on because for streams it's useful.
Hmm.
But for these chain methods, it's really for assertion chain messages, it's really annoying. And so you can tell it how many lines to do it. I don't know if there's a setting yet to change it for, hey, only turn it on for like streams. Uh, I'm not sure.
Was it called inlay?
Yeah, but you don't want to search for it there. You want to search for it where your cursor is. Yeah. So inlay hints.
Method chains?
So no, it's under code vision. No, sorry, it's not code vision. It's method chains. Yeah. So we turned it off for Java.
Right.
And so there's no further options for like, can you only show it for streams and not for
Oh,
searching?
it doesn't have that. Okay, I thought
There
that
is
was
another place somewhere where you can say it must be chained a certain number of times. Click on Java in the checkbox tree. Yeah,
here.
click there. Yes, there is on the right. There's a setting
When
for
you click
for
it,
the minimum. Yeah. So you can. So I generally set that to 3.
and then
Or some,
turn it on.
yeah. So I turn it on and I set it to 3. What do I have? Yeah, I think that's what I have.
Gonna grab my snipping tool. Big surprise. Cool. Thanks. So now the error. I mean, I would just say artist and song title are blank. But I don't like that. Sorry, what were you laughing about?
I was laughing because you said R, and it's like, oh, but then we'd have to have logic to convert from it is to R, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Um, I think we can make it more programmatic and just say these attributes were blank : and then just list the attributes. And if somebody says, but you said these attributes, you only had one, somebody's going to complain about grammar. I'm going to just ignore it. I'll just ignore them. We'll just ignore them.
Well, interesting. So comma artist comma.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have to build up the message and then do
Luckily that's easier.
Yeah.
So the string collectors joining, the string joining stuff makes that easy.
Yeah. Okay, so this should fail. Yep.
Yep.
Message is wrong. Let's make this a local variable. Ooh, no. Oh, wait, I know what I did wrong. Message, good enough?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the context is such that you can have the same name, but still. Hmm.
So what I would do is change message to be attribute, and then build the message.
And we start building it.
So what I want to do this is kind of as a refactoring. So let's
So you're saying rename this attribute.
yeah, so rename this to attribute, but let's go back and disable the current failing test.
Got it. just to make sure it's still.
Yeah.
Actually, it's probably going to break because nope.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
Because you just extracted the string.
Right.
So let's now build the string the way we want it to. So let's change that first test to be, right, so sort of go back to the one case where it's going to be these attributes were blank, colon, and change that for both of them. Or we could do one at a time. Yeah.
Okay.
So that one will fail, and then we can build the message in the constructor call to the exception. It's on line 9.
Right. So
attribute should just be artist, and then we
right.
want to build the string.
So are you thinking this? Well, that would work better with quotes.
Yes.
And then I'm just brute forcing it here. I think something along those lines.
Yeah.
And then that, like that. In Java, is this a legit syntax?
Oh, well, I'm not sure why you'd want to do that.
Just like instead of using a builder.
No. Just say message plus attribute.
Oh, here. Yeah. Duh.
But inside the and then delete 10. Yeah.
So that should make one of the tests.
Yeah, we haven't changed the expectation for the other one, so they should all pass.
Now they're all passing. Right.
Yeah. So now let's do the same thing for the song title. Change our expectation in the test to be similar. And then do a similar thing to.
Well, it should fail first, right? So I got to run it so that it fails.
Yeah.
Then we'll do the similar thing. Actually, no. First, got to rename this. I think that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's ask the test.
Yep.
Sweet.
So now we can do a little bit of refactoring. We can pull
pull message up.
Well, let's do this.
No.
So we could do that. That doesn't get us much where we want to go. So I think where we want to be is basically a list of attributes that are problematic.
Start collecting them, basically.
Yeah. So this is basically a prepare refactoring. We're not changing any existing behavior, but then once we do that, the other tests should pass.
So would this be? Is there a way to do what I'm just did instead of in a non-manual way?
No,
like
but
pull up.
No, what you did is what it is.
Okay.
But so let's. I mean, that just will work.
Yeah. I hope so.
Yeah. And now we can start collecting.
So we just do it like You said array, but would you just do a collection?
We want to do a list. I mean, we could do a set, but a list has order, so we want to do a list. A list of string. And you got to give it a name.
Attributes. Plural.
I'd probably say something like invalid attributes.
Oh, that's even better.
Yep.
Oh, right. We got to fix that.
So we can say is just invalid attributes.
Just straight up.
Well, this will probably fail because it's probably going to format it as a list with like square brackets, but let's see if it fails in that.
Let's see what it does. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is we want to do we could do we could either do a stream and then collect, or we could just use a string joiner. Let's do a stream to collect. So dot stream and then dot collect, and then collectors dot joining. I guess we can also do a stream dot join.
You want me to change it?
That's available.
Well, we can see if this works, and then go and change it, and then decide.
I don't think there is a stream dot join.
Well, that works. So let's try see if there's a dot join. There's joining.
Yeah, that's what we just did.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's what we need.
Okay.
What is IntelliJ probably suggesting a better way to do the collect? But yeah, fix what's working.
What did I do wrong? Do.
Is your cursor in the right place?
Oh. I was just going to undo to go back to when it was working. There we go.
So unhighlight.
It's interesting. Look at what's at the bottom here. It says can be replaced with string dot join.
Yeah, so it's string dot join. So let's try that. So you need to unhighlight and then let it do it. So unhighlight.
Like that?
Yes.
And and go here. Yeah.
And then it's replaced with string join.
It worked. Are you? I heard a hesitation in your tone.
Oh, I didn't see what it did. Okay, yeah, that's fine. What is the first parameter? No, I'm just wondering what the first what's the first parameter to join?
Message.
Can you put the cursor inside of join?
Yeah.
So that delimiter is we're going to want to change. Okay, but we don't need it yet.
But when we do the
when we do for multiple, then that'll change.
Right.
So let's do the same thing for the same refactoring for the song title.
One plus sign too many.
Mm-hmm. So that should still work.
I guess we should have had a break first.
All right, and so now what we can do is we could do one more preparation, but then that would make the other test pass, and I'd kind of like to see it fail, and then for us to do the right thing. So let's go re-enable our test. So it should fail because it's only going to have one of those. I guess artist first.
Yeah.
All right, great. So now we can refactor now we can refactor this out. So basically we can delete 13 and then we can move 16 out, and we could run it, and this will fail in a different way and probably break a whole bunch of tests.
It did. Yep.
But that's fine. And so now we can surround that with an if statement.
If invalid attributes is not empty.
Right. Is
Where'd
not
you do that?
empty.
There is no is not
There
empty.
is no not empty.
Yeah. Actually, I guess I could do this arg and then not.
No, you can't do that. That's only for predicates.
Ah. So just bang it.
Yep, that's the only thing you can do. I mean, you could say equals false. I don't know that that's necessarily better. Also, make sure you put curlies. Yeah.
Yep.
So this should fail because we don't have a comma, but otherwise
right. That
the
would
other
be
test.
after the join.
Yeah, but the other test should pass, so it should still only be then a one failing test.
And
Yep. And let's make a join. All right.
All right.
It's passing.
Awesome. So we've got song title, we get artist in song title.
What was the other one
I
we
get
cared about?
artist, song title, and then themes.
Okay.
So then we have to do a single one for just themes being empty or blank. And then this one would be modified to include all three.
Sure.
Or
At this point I would want to well, I'm tempted to extract and parameterize our assertion
for this test.
Well, for all the tests.
Oh, right,
because we're constantly doing the same stuff. But I don't know. This is one of those where I'd be fine not writing an individual test and just changing that third test to have a blank for themes.
But you wanted to parameterize this? I've just changed this one. Because it will then definitely check all three because it would have to hit into each if statement.
Yeah, we could parameterize it. Yeah.
Or I was wondering if do we need to parameterize it? I think is where my head was going.
Well,
if this one's empty. Well, I guess.
I don't know. This is one of those like, are we being pedantic or do we just want to get real work done? Because
Yeah.
you know, if I was teaching this, then I might say yes, let's write that third test to test both kinds of blanks, and then put one here. But I feel like we know what we're doing. We're always using dot is blank, and so let's just add a third one. So let's just change the theme to be blank in this test, and then change the message.
So would it be a list of, or would it be a blank? Would it be like that?
Yeah, it still has to be a list.
Right. Because yeah.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, I guess it'd be just theme. It's not
Yeah, I
theme or
mean, I
themes
don't know that it's
because
worth reporting that, you know, you've got two blank themes because we pretty much stop processing them once we hit a blank
first
anyway.
one. Yeah.
So
Okay. So now this will fail.
yep. This one's going to be a bit trickier.
I think so. Yeah. How are we going to do this? Huh. If themes is empty, but there's probably no is blank.
Yes, we probably need a separate something very. We need a separate error message for if the list is empty. So that's not the test we're trying to solve.
Right. Yeah.
The test we're trying to solve is that there's an empty entry.
Right.
So for that, we can do I guess we could do a contains. And then an empty string. Yeah, let's try
Oh, wait a
that.
second. No, I effed up.
Oops. Yeah, we meant to change that one, right?
Yep.
Now this will only work for contains that, which is not quite what we want. So
When you say contains that,
so
meaning
contain so that's an empty string.
right.
So it might make this test pass, but it won't satisfy the blank
Right. We have to do
requirement.
blank separately, right? So then do we write a separate test for blank?
No, let's just make the list have an empty and a blank in the test. Or I guess we could parameterize that. We could parameterize this whole test. So let's actually do that. I think that's probably a good way to go. And replace all occurrences. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, if we're gonna do that, let's parameterize it all.
okay.
Because that's what we said, should be empty or blank. So let's do what it says on
Right.
the tin.
Attribute. I don't know what else to call it.
And that's fine. I was gonna say just copy what we've already got.
Oops.
So this will now fail because theme won't show up for the one where it's a space. Yep.
So now we need to write another test.
Well, no, what we can do
It's
is
not
we can
test, but if
change.
test.
What we can do is we can change that to themes, convert it to a stream, and then find any where it's blank.
So you're saying like this?
It's actually the opposite of. It's basically all match. Okay, yeah. So stream all match, and our predicate is uppercase string : : Yeah, so you can have the predicate not, and then it's string : is blank.
Is that going to fix it, or is it just going to change the to when it goes to the parameterization? Isn't it going to make one pass and the other one fail?
No, we're saying is blank, and none of them match is blank. But we're saying not. So we're basically saying all are not blank. I think that's right.
Okay, let's see what it says.
Our test will tell us.
Oh no. Super unhappy. So it's parameterized test. It's going through. It's sending first an empty string.
Can we just double check that first failing test? I want to make sure that in our TSV song that we actually have a theme. Yeah, we do have themes there. So is it any match?
Well, cheap to run the test and find out.
Yeah.
No. Interestingly, it's the same error message.
Oh, the predicate shouldn't be not. We're basically saying if it has any is blank, then that's the problem. And it should be all. I mean, any or all, it doesn't matter.
Prefer all?
No, in this case, it should be any. When it was not, it all made sense, sort of. But basically now we're saying, do any of them match? Yeah. So James Boone was right. Except, James, you didn't tell us the predicate was wrong. Right, because what we're saying is we want to throw an exception if any of the entries in the themes list are blank. Done.
Yeah. So this, I think somebody asked, I think it was James, what if one's blank and the other isn't?
Yeah, I'm not terribly worried about that.
Because in a way that's covered.
I mean, we don't technically have that covered. I don't feel like I need to. I mean, if we really want to, then we can copy one of the tests above and pass in both values for pass in two different blanks
To list.
To the list. Yeah. So have the list have two separate blanks.
I'm okay with moving on.
I'm fine with moving on.
Yeah. I mean, if we end up having a quote production error, then we can
Yeah.
Okay, Jira.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, actually, yeah, I guess it's done. We're sort of the exception, but we don't do anything with it at the moment. Nobody's catching it, but I guess it would go all the way to the adapter.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't say handle this at specific levels. We just said that make sure song has abides by its invariant.
Right.
Yeah, so if somehow we weren't checking our validation at the adapter, then an exception would be thrown.
Yeah.
When we try to create the song.
Oops.
So Endofunctor Zero asked this question earlier. I don't know if you're still hanging around. When I do mappings from domain entities to any kind of DTO, I'm always testing it. That's the cost of mapping, but it's also the benefit of mapping. If you're always doing one-to-one mappings, I'd be questioning whether you actually have domain objects. Because to me, it's indicative of your domain objects are just data. If it's always a one-to-one mapping to a view. Not that that's a bad thing, just that it's something to be aware of. And if you have a lot of those, then you might want to look at auto mapping tools. But I'm going to want to test that. Because honestly, I see a lot of bugs happen there. So, all right, let's commit. Do you have reformat on commit? Because I noticed there's some tech code that's not formatted. Can you hit the gear in the lower right of the commit? Let's do reformat code, the top one.
There it is.
And we do have run all tests.
But no, we learned that run all tests happens after.
I know it happens after. Yeah, I have to check on that issue.
Annoying.
All right, we can close that. It's pretty much just the ensure basically what we said in the Jira.
You mean Jira 55?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I will laugh at that for a really long time.
So now it's running all the tests, which is great, except
it's great but late.
All right.
Cool.
I mean, I guess it's better than nothing, because you'd find out, like, all of a sudden it would pop up with saying, "Oh, a test failed," and you'd be like, "What?" And then you can go and amend your commit. But yeah. All right. What do we want to do next?
Oh, we've got this. Hold on to parse errors to return them all at once. So I presume that was for this test, the parser test.
Yeah. So here we'd want to look at where would we want to collect those problems?
Yeah, X with a G55.
So this gets us back to, I think we've had this discussion at least once, which is parse currently returns a list of song because there's an assumption that it's going to return a list of valid songs and that there's no problem. And that if there is a problem, we throw an exception, which means all we know about is that one of the songs was not right.
And then if the next one's not right, then
we don't know about that. So the question is, do we want to do that now? Or do we want to move on to more feature behavior?
Yeah. I'm kind of jonesing to move forward a little bit, I must say.
Yeah, so let's clarify Jira 56 to say that return them all at once from the song parser parse method, the TSV song parser.
That good?
And you can put in parentheses using result pattern and capitalize result. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right.
We are getting close to our end time, but it'd be good to kind of think a little bit about next
steps.
So would we want, different next steps we could do is we could have it so that we build the UI for this coming in.
Mm-hmm.
But then we won't be persisting it in any real way. It'll go away once we shut it down. We could then
but it's so easy to import that you could just re-import it every time the server goes down.
This is true.
I mean, we could do that for a short period of time.
I mean, part of me is more interested in doing the, doing the authentication, because we need authentication before we can do the database, right? Was that one of our decisions?
Well, if we're going to make it public, yes, we need authentication before we can persist it to a database.
Right.
Can you fix the spelling of authentication?
Oh my God, who did that? It must have
been me.
Yeah. Did we do 3.2.2?
No, because I didn't do that. I'll do that. I'll do that after. So so are we saying we want to do database or we want to do authentication next?
Well, I guess we could do database without authentication as long as it's not accessible on the website.
Right.
Does that seem like the right approach, is to do that first, then do authentication, then the UI? Or will the UI need the authentication need the UI? Can you test that under the skin?
Well, I would say if we can do the authentication with basically a no op UI. That's fine. So we can do it in that order. We can do database authentication UI, or we could do authentication UI database.
Any advantages of choosing one over the other?
Depends what you want us to do next.
No, I don't have I meant from a implementation perspective, not from a product owner perspective.
I don't think
I don't have a strong opinion, frankly.
Yeah, I don't think there's any I don't think there's any difference from an implementation perspective.
I guess let's do the DB first, then authentication, then UI, right? I guess this is.
Well, I mean, we do have an in-memory database, so it might make sense to move to the UI next. And so it's saved in memory, and it only goes away when the server restarts.
Right.
So from that point of view, we might just want to go to the authentication UI and then persistence later. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yep.
Okay.
And so we have to figure out what authentication do we want.
What is this grouping here? Okay, it's that. Add songs via bulk load. Sorry, you had a question? I was thinking about trying to organize this.
How do you want to authenticate? Do you want to use username password? Do you want to use social like Google login? What do you want to use?
I imagine something like Google login, but because it seems like the more we implement, I mean, I'd rather not reinvent it. Right. So
Yeah, I wasn't going to suggest that we're going to invent authentication. I just want to know what are you okay with the Google login versus using
just
username password where somebody else manages the username password.
Oh. Yeah, and from that perspective, yeah, and then I'd prefer it not be necessarily Google, just username password.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of third-party services that will do that for you.
Okay.
That at our at our usage level is free.
Yeah, because not everybody has Google, and
I'm fine with that. I mean, we could all, one of the nice things is you're basically delegating all authentication to them, and then you could
right.
you could through them, if they want, use Google. That would be an option. So that way you leave it up to the user how they want to authenticate.
That works for me.
Okay. So basically next time, which will be tomorrow, we will add authentication. And then
So
we
will
can
that
build the UI.
Yeah, so we'll do that under the skin at first, and then build the UI, the authentication part.
Well,
Or do they need to be?
Well, the authentication is a layer on top of the UI. So once we configure that, the UI will all UI pages will say we'll be able to specify which ones are open and which ones require authentication.
Got it. Okay. Sounds
So
like I'll be learning about that tomorrow.
Yes.
Maybe I can find some time and do a little reading up on it beforehand.
And
Are we already at? Yeah, we're almost at the end of our.
Yeah, we're pretty much at time. Yeah, so that's our next step.
Yeah.
So we'll add the authentication. We'll delegate the authentication, get that to work. And then we can add our bulk import page, and that'll be protected for admin. So we'll set up a couple of roles. Actually, we'll only use one role, which is admin. And then it's basically, because what you can say is like the search pages are permit all, basically allow anybody, even unauthenticated people, to access it, but that the import page will be protected, that you must be authenticated with a specific role.
Cool.
All right.
I did have one comment on EndoFunctor's last chat. The whole, using story numbers as a conversation. I've had teams where you weren't allowed to do that, where there was like a working agreement in the team was you had to use the title, which then encourages your titles to be short. And we used to strive for 5 words or less for every title, because then you're actually having a human conversation,
right?
Versus what's US 5344? I got to go look that up. right? Whereas if you just have a 5-word title, 5-word or less, you can be like, oh, I know what you're talking about. I don't need to go look at a system, right? We can just talk like humans.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah. On that positive note.
On that human note.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. All right, so that's all for today, folks. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for joining us. We will be streaming same time tomorrow. So tune in then, and tell your friends. Don't forget to join the Discord if you're not already a member, because we've got our weekly book club coming up. Don't miss out.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
And that's it. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.